Hello, it's excitement day today because we have a new radio from RadioMaster, but it's really quite different from their normal radio. This is called the MT12. It's what they refer to as a surface radio, and what we mean by that is instead of having sticks, we're looking at a trigger and a wheel, normally for driving cars, boats, that sort of thing. Let's take it out and see what's in there. In the box, we've got this carry case and a quick guide. And if we open the box, this is what we're looking at. And you may well be thinking, well, this just looks like another one of those things where you've got a trigger and a wheel and that's about it. But no, because
welcome to EdgeTX.
This is a surface radio that runs EdgeTX. This is also running Express ELRS. There is a 4-in-1 version, but yeah, can you imagine the range you got out of it? And this is in its police mode at the moment. You see it's flashing LEDs. And aside from your normal, steering and throttle, there is a bunch of switches. There are pots. This has an expansion bay to put extra things on. It has a nano module bay, so you can put a different module in. This will literally do everything. Let's go into close-up. Let's see what we've got in the radio. Let's see what else is in the box, because there is a bunch of cool stuff here. So here it is in its glory. I haven't turned it on yet because I have to be careful not get it too close to camera. You probably heard a bit of funny high-pitched noise. The radio can affect the camera and it picks things up. But what we've got on here is we've got these they feel like two-position sort of switches. They're actually trims. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 trims there. There's another one just under here. But of course, being EdgeTX, you can redefine those and use them as something else. You've got an intermittent switch there, SC, so you can just flick that. You've got a 3-position switch here, which is cool because you can kind of get that with your thumb as you drive or float a boat or whatever you do. There's a switch here, another intermittent, press in and out. Got USB-C there for charging. On the side here, you've got 2 pots. I've never seen any surface controller with this many switches and pots and stuff. Obviously you've got a throttle and brake there. Really hard to film this because it's obviously very black and other things are black. Underneath here, if we just flick this open, you've got a pre-installed SD card, so your voices are on there. You've got a USB-C port again for doing sims and stuff. You've got a headphone jack and you've got a DSC or a trainer port. I didn't notice this one, but you've also got some sort of servo input there. I don't know what that's for, quite honestly. Interesting. Maybe it's a smart port or something, but who knows. This is the ELRS version and this is the antenna. At the moment it's set up to be horizontally polarized, but you can change that to vertically if you want to. The place you put the module, this took me a little while to figure out. And I have to come with it when I show you what else you get there, but basically you've got this little bung in there. If we lift that off, you've got that little hole there with some little tiny ports in there where you can put something. Well, I'll show you that bit in a minute. The whole thing runs off 2 18650s. These aren't included, so you have to supply your own. And it gets interesting down here. This they've called the expansion port. And it's, again, come on. I've got so much light going on this thing here. Let's see if I can take that off for you. And you've basically got a hole. What's that all about? Well, let's show you what else came in the box. First off, in the top of the box, for the ELRS version, you will get this receiver. This is a ER3CI. It's a 3-channel receiver. And it's got this, which I think is for getting telemetry for your power. If you get the 4-in-1 version, instead of that, you get the R85C receiver, which is one of these, and these can work off, I think, FHSS or FreeSky D8 or D16. So that's if you get the 4-in-1. That's what comes in the box. We got this little protector for the screen, which I haven't used. I just try and be careful with my screen. And that was the stuff in the zip there. But if we turn the box over, there's another zip section, and there's a bunch of stuff in here. Let's get this out. So it's a little bit weird to sort of contemplate how this works until you actually see it, but this is the adapter for adding a nano module. And what this does, if we again look at this hole here, I just cannot get enough light on this thing. to really show it. That's better. Turn the lights up even higher. It's absolutely blinding in here now. What we've got here is this thing goes into there, pushes down nice and tight. These snap on there, and now you've got a nano module adapter, so you pushed your module on there. We'll do that in a second. The other things we've got here, instead of an X strap, it's kind of a carry strap, so you can, if you want to, attach that there and you can carry your transmitter around. Also in that bag is a USB-C to USB-C cable. And then we're on to the interesting stuff. What is this expansion bay for? You've got two options in the bag here. Let me just get these out and I will show you what they are. The first is this. If you install that, and basically you have to plug this in under the batteries, you've got a 4-direction joystick. I'm not sure exactly how that works or what signal that gives out. It'd be interesting to test it. Or if you're thinking, oh man, I haven't got enough switches and I don't want to use trim switches, you can install this one instead, and this gives you two position switches. So you can add that and that will be down there. So I'm definitely going to test those both out. The other thing I got, because it's like, this is brilliant, I'll be able to use this radio and do stuff. I didn't have a multi-protocol module, or at least one that was decent. The one I reviewed ages ago turned out to be using chips with not enough flash memory on it, so I can't run the latest. So RadioMaster kindly supplied me with their 4-in-1 module, so this gives me a really good excuse to install it here now, which just goes in the normal way and then looks like that. I'll grant you, looks a little bit weird, but the fact you can put any module on here is amazing. I've got so many cars and they always come with their own surface controller, and a lot of them are a bit crappy, so I'm looking forward to testing out a few cars with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to install this one first and see exactly how it works and see what it says on the screen, so I can fathom out exactly what signals you get from this thing. So each of the modules has obviously fits in to the front in a way you can see, but it's got this cable here and something to attach, and if you go underneath, you take the battery pack out, you can see you've got this little socket there to install in, which is just what I'm going to do now. Okay, so we've got the 4-way joystick installed there, and you can see I'm plugged in there, so I just need to put the batteries back in, and we'll see how that works. I've just turned, for this model, both internal and external modules off. Hopefully that won't get any feedback. I've just got the channel monitor here, and you can see, like, various things, trigger and stuff. And what I did, I set up some channels 10 and 11, and what we get is 2 channels on this stick. That's me pushing forwards, backwards, left and right, and we can obviously mix those together. So this could be like a pan tilt that goes back to center if you wanted to. I say center, this is slightly out, we need to sub-trim that correctly. But that's cool. So we've got a little 2-channel thing here, either for this 4-way joystick, which is pretty cool, or this 2 lots of 2-way switches, depending what you want there. How easy is that to reach? I mean, can you do it all with one hand? Yeah, maybe you can kind of do that if you want to, or more likely you might be sort of taking one hand off and doing that, or steering and doing that, or something. I mean, this does keep your 2 hands busy, but you've got access to it. It's just a question of learning how you're going to do that and how it's gonna react. Obviously, the screen's lovely. It's and the buttons are pretty big. Again, my little niggle. RadioMaster make beautiful buttons. If they could just colour these in so it's not like black engraving on black. If they could just colour that white or something, it'd be so easy to see. But all the normal stuff is here. I'm in models there. If I go to come out, go to system, we've got the Express ELRS thing, which isn't going to load right now because I've just turned off my internal modules. We've got the normal telemetry stuff, all that gubbins. It's all a regular EdgeTX radio. That's the beauty of it there. But what am I going to do now? I'm going to test some stuff out. For those of you guys that remember, when we got the original ER5A, which was one of the first PWM receivers for ELRS, I built up this little thing, and it's got the camera at the back. And I always thought about this and thought, wouldn't it be cool to be able to pan your camera around if I had it like here? At the time, I didn't really want to cut a hole in this, but I thought, you know, I'm not using it for anything else. So I could put the camera there, raise it up on a servo, and be able to pan round. And of course, I'd still be using my normal Surface radio, but I'd be using one of these, or perhaps this little joystick down there, to be able to just pan left and right, which I thought would be a cool thing. Okay, here's my little FPV card. So I've configured this up so, you know, it goes and... We've also put on here the pan tilt. This is I basically made a little TPU servo condom, I would call it, and we can change that. I thought initially with this pot here to move it, and then I thought if I'm going along I might want to use this. So what I did, I just put this, if I use that, and I can be driving along with the trigger, and I can just use that with the bottom finger, and then I can go back, and that doesn't do anything, and then this goes back to doing it. Beeper on that one. So I was just about ready to put the top on, although I have to say not my finest hour of cutting, and then I thought, oh, one thing this doesn't do is give you any power telemetry. Now I happen to have voltage coming through on the camera on this particular one, but I also thought we've got the follow-up to that one. This is called the ER5C2. It's another 5-channel PWM receiver, but you notice it's got this red line, and we can take an extra bit for the power and get telemetry back there as another failsafe. So I thought I'd swap those out because I have to kind of lengthen these slightly so they'll go back under that happily when I put this on. So I'm just going to do that, and then we can try driving it and see how it feels. Okay, so this is what happens. Normally you see the RX battery says 4.7. This is what happens when it's got no voltage going into the extra red wire. But if we now plug that in, we see an RX battery of 7.7, and that's the main battery now. So that's the new receiver, and I've just stuck that antenna up. And I don't know, maybe these T antennas are better than those, but I'll find out. I'll try and take it around the park again, see what happens. Hopefully it won't rain tomorrow. Okay, test day, or the slight sliver of a window where it's not raining. We got the controller, we got the car. What we haven't got is a particularly interesting area because it's been so wet. I'm gonna basically go around the park, try and use the entire border of the outside there and avoid the mud. They had a fireworks event here, which is why there's bits here and guys clearing away barriers and stuff, but let's see what happens. So the immediate thing that happened, aside from testing everything seemed to work, is I started driving, and then I realised that I had my antenna polarised horizontally, and I had my antenna on the receiver up vertically, so I had to come back and change it again. But after all that was done, we got going. So we're off and going this time, and initially I had my pan set up on the little pot, but I found I had to sort of stop to look around. I quite liked the fact it was quite smooth, but what I did is I decided to move it over pretty quickly to that joystick so I could drive along and just use that little finger to look around. It's actually quite bumpy here to say that it's quite flat. This is quite a little car, so it does get lots of bumps and stuff, and I'm sure that servo is having a bit of a shake about in the little mounting I put it in. But the idea here is we're just checking out range and seeing how it works and seeing how usable the pan is with the little joystick as I drive. And I feel I've got the right sort of setup. I've got that freeway switch that I can flick with one finger while my hand's on the wheel, and I can use the little finger that's on the same hand as the trigger if I want to look at people, which I'm just kind of spying on people as they walk past. I was interested as well because although this isn't a great distance, it's on the ground, and that makes things very, very different than being on the air. And it's got some lumps in the way. If you have a look at this corner on the right hand side. You can see it's raised and we're kind of heading slightly down a hill. So at a point in a second we're going to be kind of behind that hill and our signal's going to be much worse. And the way this comes out usually is the video signal goes a bit horrible whilst the radio control signal seems absolutely fine and happy. I wasn't quite prepared for the amount of mud and everything that was on the path. As I said, last night they had fireworks night here. It's the 30th of October today. They had the fireworks on the 29th, and they're having firework night before Halloween, which is really weird. Over here in the UK, November the 5th, we call Bonfire Night, which we have lots of fireworks and stuff. And it just seems very strange to have that before Halloween, which is kind of, do one and then do the other. Don't mix them up. Anyway, what happened is I guess lots of people were stood around on this grass. It was hammering it down last night for a lot of it, and it's the same today. We've had rain. And it was literally a sliver, and people have walked their muddy shoes everywhere, and they've put a lot of mud on this. And I was just going along and thinking, that looks a bit muddy, stuff's jumping up. And yeah, sure enough, straight on the camera I was like, that's annoying. How did I manage that? But this is about the furthest point, and you can see again we're still behind a little hump there where our signal's less than it should be, and it's coming out in dodgy video. Look at these people not even throwing their rubbish away properly. But it's carrying on fine. The video's a bit dodgy. Absolutely nothing wrong with the RC signal. That's handling things very well. I did go out and have a look at my RSSI. At the worst point, I had an LQ of between 98 and then rising to 100 with the RSSI dBm at minus 98. Which I think is pretty good, bearing in mind I'm hidden behind stuff. I've now found what can only be described as a lake of a puddle that I'm trying to go through quite gently because I don't want everything to get completely wet. I should explain, I just put this stuff on. Nothing is waterproof. Nothing has been conformal coated to make it waterproof. So I'm thinking, it's not so bad. I got one splat on the lens. I'll come back in and I'll clean that off. It'll be fine. The guys in their truck now have moved around and kind of slightly bemused, as are all people, but very polite about it, I generally find around here. So that's all good. I'm kind of coming over to through the worst bit now because that hill's going to come to an end soon. I'm going to start going up the hill and I'm going to get more signal that way. But again, so wet. I really wanted to go out into the forest, use those trails, go up and down, see how it felt, see how far I could go, that sort of stuff. But it's just a mud pit right now. Some of those trails in the forest that I normally fly just for 6 months of the year, forget about it. They are just mud baths and they're horrible. So here's the last stretch, just coming around to complete my circuit and going a little bit fast through that water. You will notice that the voltage is hardly moving. Because this is a pretty small truck, so if I go too fast it's going to jig about a bit. It makes me go quite slow, really just above normal person's walking pace, which feels fast enough for what you can see, because if you go any faster it's just going to make you and anybody watching it completely sick. One thing I thought I'd do though, because I can see there's this metal barrier here at the play park, I thought I'll zip around the back of that after I get rid of this mark off the lens and see if the signal holds up, because it's like a big metal cage I'm going behind. I thought that would tax it a bit. The only problem about, I find, driving forward and looking around at the same time is sometimes you'll go slightly offline. I'm just looking at Jim there and almost going into the muddy bit. But you will notice the signals come back way better now. So I'm just basically coming back round to myself, having done the full lap. And I should be just on one of these seats. I'm hoping I can see myself, because that blob in the lens, it's right in the middle, which is a right pain. But yeah, this looks. Oh, look how much drier this is. If it was all like this, I'd be fine. But yeah, this looks like me. Dodgy looking guy in some funny glasses. What's he up to? Let's have a look. I thought it might have just got a little bit of a splash, but look at the state of this poor thing. Somehow this is still going, despite it being very wet. I think I better be more careful than that. So just ready to put out, make sure the dog is clear, and off we go again. And with this continuation of the first battery, in fact, all I want to do is try going round the play park, as it was that big metal cage and I thought it'd be good. Absolutely no problems in the metal cage. The problems came when we got to this surface, which was absolutely horrible. Look at the poor thing bouncing around all over the place. This is such a little car still that it just small bumps equals big bounces. But aside from the big bounces, we didn't really have a problem. Again, in the worst position where we're going through 2 lots of metal cages, we've got a bit of a worse signal, but radio signal's absolutely fine, and we got back without a problem. Okay, finished driving. Only thing to know is if you're going to have the antenna vertically polarized like this, you have to take off the module. Because I had my receiver antenna up like that, I needed to do that. Of course, if you're going horizontally, you don't need to. This thing, somehow, despite having water in the receiver, the VTX and the camera, is continuing on. I think I'd better get that back and dry it, because this weather's just not going to last. Off we go. Now, once again, if you felt that sticking your little finger out and using that joystick or the pot was a bit tricky in terms of trying to work the camera, then this is again a proper radio with a proper trainer port. So if you've got a pair of goggles or a head tracker module, you can simply connect them up and look around that way. And of course, if we had tilt, we'd be able to tilt as well. So very, very useful in terms of FPV ground vehicles. Now, although I wanted to take a bunch of cars outside with the multi-protocol module and try them, the weather hasn't been this good to me. So we've got this little guy. This is an S-Nyclo little crawler type vehicle, and I haven't actually reviewed this yet. That's just coming out, and this is a brand new one. And this is the radio you generally get with it. And you know, it works okay. A lot of people have mentioned that for a crawler, its low range is a bit rubbish. It's very hard to go slow, so you kind of jerk forward a bit. And I thought this was a problem with these cars, and I reported back to S-Nyclo and said, can you do anything about it? And they said, oh, we'll look into it. However, if I swap this out, so I've gone ahead and bound this radio, and it's really all about precision. With the same settings, all I have to do is press my throttle a lot gentler, and we can go super slow and really crawl. And if I want to, because this is EdgeTX, I could flick that across and have an ultra low gear, so I can then move my throttle a little bit more and super slow, and you know, that will go that fast instead of maximum speed. But yeah, I thought these things were no good at crawling, but it turned out they just needed the right radio. This is now a great fun desk toy. Now, you probably saw before I had this thing in police mode, which means there's LEDs here and here that go. And there's a whole section to set these up, so you can have just basic blue, green, red, or police, right, goes like that, which is quite nifty. And this is done via the special function screen. You can see I've just set these up on switches, but again, because this is EdgeTX, it means you can use them as status things as well. So if your telemetry dropped or your battery dropped or something, you could go from green to blue to red or something, and the police flashing if you didn't like it. Obviously not that much use if you're an FPV, but if you're driving line of sight and you just glance down, you can see your LEDs are flashing, then it can draw your attention to something a lot easier than having to like look on a telemetry screen or something. It's quite a nifty feature, that one. I haven't seen it before. So we're at the end of our video, and you can tell because someone outside has decided to start drilling, as they do. I think they're spying on me and deciding where they can ruin my audio. This I really like. I didn't quite get everything out on this video I wanted to do. I wanted to do a lot more driving other little cars. Although I will say that I think the support for the multi-protocol module in sort of the more toy end seems to be lacking in ground vehicles. There's loads and loads of obvious ones to fly like little toy quads with and stuff. But I think it's probably because we've never had a ground controller before where you could put the multi-protocol module in, as far as I know at least. So there's not much sort of known compatibility out there. Obviously we'll drive this little thing, because this uses a FlySky protocol, that was easy. And just as a general hint, this thing, which was, I'd call it very much a sort of toy grade model, had this all-in-one ESC and receiver, which I needed to take out previously and put my own ESC in so I could put my Express LRS receiver in. But I did go through and see if I could find a protocol for this one in the multi-protocol module, and I couldn't seem to. And it could just be the fact that it's on one of these kind of obscure ones that has a sub-protocol and stuff like that. But I think, as I said, because people aren't trying this out, we don't know what they are. But in theory, yeah, you should be able to grab whatever car or boat you want, which will go great with a ground controller, and use it that way. That'd be great. But I think the more people that get this, the more we'll have about this model is compatible with this thing, and etc, etc. Now I very much focus on FPV. I'm driving around, I'm using my little, I ended up with sort of this in the end. So this is actually easier than it looks like, and this is easy to switch wherever you go, really. You can even do it with your thumb on the other finger. But what about line of sight people? Because a lot of people just like ripping cars around and watching them go over jumps and stuff. Of course you can use this. You've got a much better view of your telemetry coming back from your receiver. You can put alerts on. As I said, you can make the LED show different colour. You can put warnings on and stuff like that. Work absolutely great. The other place, there's two other places actually where I thought this would be fantastic. I kind of like watching people take cars to extremes. So one of the things I watched recently was this Rosser event, which is in Wales, I think, and it's this speed run. They get these like hyper RC cars that they've built with ridiculous powertrains, and they seem to go as fast as they can. And what I noticed from this, and I'll show you a quick clip, this is a man from Scorched Pass, who's the manufacturer, doing 216 miles an hour on this car. As soon as he goes past, you'll see him hold the controller up, trying to get a better signal. It's like, and these guys tend to use very expensive Futaba radios, and then they're doing modifications to try and make them more powerful. It's just like, use Express LRS. You'll also get a much lower latency with your wheel as well, and that would work really great. I'm surprised these guys haven't discovered FPV as well, because one of the things they have to do is drive far away in the opposite direction on a runway, to the point where they can barely see it, because it needs quite a run up to get up to 200 miles an hour, and then by the time they're going past, they're like, put the brakes on, and they can't really see what they're doing. If you're looking at FPV, I figured you'd have a much better idea. Anyway, the other place the low latency thing would work really well is for RC racers. Have you ever seen those clips of those guys going around those indoor carpet courses? Some of the cars just look like they're glued down, and they are going incredibly fast. It looks incredibly skillful. And these guys spend a lot of money on those, and one of the things they can do with this is set your servos to use ultra high speed. A normal servo works at 50 hertz, and you can see when I cross the wheel, it sort of goes it sort of catches up. It's not quick enough to go. But if you go with these ultra fast 333 or 400 hertz servos, they will go super quickly, and through Express LRS you can actually use that. You can't use it on other protocols, but Express LRS, you've got that low latency, and it can support those ultra fast servos. So for racing guys, this surely is a bit of a no-brainer, starting to use Express LRS in their racing. Standout feature for me, apart from the fact you can use Express LRS, is this module bay. I've never seen a ground radio with module bay. I mean, perhaps there are some. I don't know them that well. I've had lots of sort of toy style controllers rather than proper hobby ones, but the fact you can run it on Express RS or the multi-protocol module and then Crossfire or Ghost, I could put another ELRS module on if I wanted to run at 868 or 900 hertz, for example. It's just that the options open up there are limitless, and coupled with EdgeTX, which means you can set stuff up exactly the way you want to. You can set up alerts, you can set up sort of clever logical switches and stuff to do things. You can get voice stuff to tell you what's going on. Fantastic. So I for one will be using this in the future. Although this is fantastic fun to drive around, I always felt it was a bit small. I think it's 1/12, 1/16 scale. Pretty small. You saw how it went over the bumpy bits. It doesn't cope with it very well. I thought I need something bigger. So coming soon, we'll be running this slightly larger and very unsubtle beastie around. And now this came with its own controller. This is less toy, more hobby. So very easy to switch out for a new one. It's actually got a 4G system in it at the moment, which will be coming up in a video, but at the same time I'm gonna have it easily modular swappable. So I'm looking for a 1.3 gig video system coupled with Express LRS, and of course this controller to drive it around and get some proper distance from it. So that's in the future. In the meantime, this has been a review of the fabulous RadioMaster MT12 Surface Radio, and I hope that's been helpful. Of course, there's links down below if you want to check it out, and if you've got any questions, zip them in the comments and I will do my best to answer. Catch you next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.